It looks like I am live. Welcome to tonight. We typically do our Facebook Lives on this channel, on this page, only from Friday morning 10 a.m. Mountain Time and on, but today we decided to go ahead and bring in a couple of spotlight speakers we wanted to introduce to you. I feel super excited to be able to do that. I'm going to go ahead and start out with introducing you to who my spotlight speakers are going to be tonight. The first one will be joining us in about 20 minutes, and her name is Amy Jorgensen, and she is a cutie. I am so excited to have her speaking with us at this conference. She is a first-time speaker for us, and she will be speaking on the very important topic of human design. Now, I'm not super familiar with human design, but what I do know about it, I've been super intrigued by and impressed because it's like another level of me getting to know myself, getting to know who I am, why I tick, the way I tick, why I work the way I work. If you have been wanting to know more things about you, getting to know yourself better, I feel like this is a great way to do that. So that's human design, and she'll be on in just a few minutes here. Again, her name is Amy Jorgensen, first time speaker for our event this Saturday over in Millville, which is Logan, Cache County in northern Utah. And super excited to have her on board with us. And then our second speaker is Mike Simpson. And he's also a first time speaker, so he's not been to our events either in the past. So first time speaker for both of them tonight. So if you've been to our events before, you know how this works. We have speakers come on. Sometimes they've been with us before, sometimes they haven't. But when you get there, you have a myriad of different class options to choose from. So you get to choose what works best for you. And the thing I like about that is even if you're like, oh, I don't want to go to any of the classes during that particular block, you could literally go into the vendor hall and have experiences there. We have complimentary light therapy, compliments of Lumaceuticals with Shine with Light. Thank you so much, Marta and her team. And also many other options. I know this weekend we have homemade bath and body items, right? And we have, gosh, what else do we have? There's massage therapy, there's electro, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I just totally had a brain fart there. Jill Serafina does electro, what's it called? I'm going to try and find it, okay? Let's see if I can find it. Ultrasonic cavitation. There we go. It's ultrasonic like liposuction. There we go. That's the word I was trying to think of. We also have things like Native American iridology. We have live spiritual profiling. We have a class called Reclaiming Your Intuition from Emily Stovall. Joy Beck is going to be doing a joyful parenting tips class. She's been a teacher for 26 years. She's so much fun, but she's also a very, very, very good, skilled energy practitioner and also foot zoner as well. So, gosh, we have classes on relationships, classes on generational healing. Mike Simpson is going to be teaching about how to eliminate suffering through hypnosis and NLP. I personally am not super experienced with that myself, but he is a licensed heart math coach, which is cool, something that I've been wanting to learn more about. And he's also a master health NLP practitioner. So he's got over 25 years of experience. He'll be one of our other spotlight speakers today. I'm super excited about that. So fantastic. I do want to give you a couple of other tips going into this conference. First of all, if you don't have your ticket yet and you'd like one, will you just please say I? Let me know that you'd like one and we can get you hooked up. That is in the southern, the southern part of Cache Valley. I was just there just a few minutes ago today. And it's called Millville, just in case you wanted to know that. Hey, Brenda, how's it going? Hi, La Marla, how are you? So nice to see you guys on here. Thank you so much. And we also have dozens of vendors as well, gemstones to shop through. I know that there's some practitioners who are going to be offering mini sessions, so you can be doing that as well. We even, for the first time ever, have some food vendors that will be there, so you can make a day of it. Come enjoy with some friends. We also have classes on thermography as well, which is what I've chosen to do as a preventative for my own health, which is why I asked Kelly to come and speak on it. It's so awesome. Jen K, is going to be speaking on breaking free from toxic relationships. So excited about that class as well. And for those of you who are retreat producers or you do your own workshops, as a practitioner, if you are interested in doing an arrow break ceremony, she offers those. She comes in as a guest speaker and just does a fantastic job. So reach out to her if you're interested at all. And then the closing speaker, the final speaker for the day, is Dr. Alice W. Lee. Now, she is a psychiatrist that practices down in Lehigh, which is in Utah County. And she also is a Reiki master and a board certified integrative physician. So she's going to be speaking to us specifically at this conference about how you can use the understanding of energy medicine with functional medicine and her psychiatric training to bring together hope, healing, and freedom for her patients who are trying to get off of psychiatric medications. And to do so safely and smoothly. So she will be our capstone speaker at 5 o'clock. And she's the only speaker during that time because we wanted to make sure that people who wanted to be there would be able to get into that. So I'm so excited about that. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was just at the grocery store shopping, and the people that were behind me were having this conversation, and they were so loud, and they were saying, and I'm loud sometimes, so I get it, right? And they were talking about the weather at first, and then they started to talk about how, if you're depressed and you're stuck in your bedroom, that all you need to do is just do something nice for someone, and then you'll be happy. And I was like, what? So I turned around and I'm like, do you know that that's not always true? Did you know that there's a stigma behind mental health? And I started to have a conversation. I started to open that up, and I said, sometimes there's an imbalance, or sometimes somebody's energy is off. Sometimes, there's more to it. And they were just like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, yeah, it's so nice. Does anybody else can you guys relate with me? You're like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Sometimes there's more to it than that, right? And I am grateful because I feel like getting to know myself, know the things about me, I can find some of those tools that really will be effective for me personally. I feel like I'm just such a student of this work, and that's why I know it works and works effectively. And so things that are like human design or doing different things like charts and learning more about myself and how I work, even through things like journaling or watching my own patterns, things like that can be so helpful. It's just really, really nice. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to say is, well, first of all, do y'all got your tickets? Are you guys all set up for this weekend? I'm going to go ahead and put the link for the actual speaker bios, class descriptions, address, everything that you need down here in the comments so that you guys have that. And then if you need a ticket for an in-person ticket or a virtual ticket, this is your last chance. Literally, we're calling for last chance. By 10 o'clock tonight, you're going to want to use the link that I give you. For those of you who call in for those tickets, right away, use those tonight so that you can get those all squared away. And we have hundreds of people registered for this event, dozens of vendors, and of course, also dozens of speakers. Leanna, this conference is being held in Millville, which is in Logan, Utah. So let's see, you're in Kaysville. I would say it's probably like an hour and 15 minutes or so of a drive. And it literally starts at the very first classes start at 9. You can come before that and check out the vendors. And then it goes all the way through until the last vendors will be leaving at 7 o'clock. And that will be held at Ridgeline High School for those of you who would like to attend. It's a great place to be able to go, mingle, meet with others of like mind, get to, go shopping through the area in our vendor hall. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited. What I do want to do is I'd like to go ahead and introduce our very first speaker spotlight by introducing you to her. Her name is Thain Jorgensen, and her class title is called Understanding Your Human Design. And I'd really love for you to be able to open up your mind to what she has to say and what this is about, because even if you are not able to attend the conference, if you get her information and her details, you can still go ahead and connect with her, okay? This class, the description says, it's time to clear away past conditioning and align with your true self. If you're ready to grab the keys to unlocking your potential and living a life of resistance, free of resistance, this is the course for you. I got to make sure I put that part in right. We will dive into the methodology of human design in a way that is understandable and soul delicious. Oh my gosh, Amy, I love the way that that is described. That's just beautiful. She is the founder of the Soul Centered Academy and a quality coordinator for a Fortune 500 company. So she has a very diverse background, including 8 years in the USA, United States Air Force. That's what that says, right? As a KC-135 pilot. Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. I didn't even know that until I'm reading that right now. An MS in leadership education and a MFSQ in food quality and safety. I don't even know what that stands for, so I'm gonna have to ask her. Amy thrives on using her past traumas as a way to connect with her clients and helping them find joy in life. She has been successfully helping others heal from their past since 2017, having lost a spouse to suicide in her late 30s. And a daughter to a heart condition only 3 years later. Oh my gosh, I'm like gonna cry, which sent her into a place of despair. She is determined to help others on their climb back out of the rabbit hole. Oh my gosh, Amy, with a whimsical attitude for life and a deep appreciation and gratitude for the small things. Oh my gosh, I'm like gonna cry just reading your bio. I can't wait for this class. It's gonna be so good. Amy's vibrant personality is a favorite of her clients. I'm just watching her on Facebook and I love this woman. She radiates an energy that will bring a smile to your soul. Please welcome with me the amazing Thain Jorgensen.
Hi. Oh my goodness, you're making me all like, oh.
Oh my gosh, you're seriously adorable. I freaking love you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to connect with you. It's one of those things where like I found you on social media and then it was like, bam, this is so awesome. So,
Oh my
I have to
gosh.
tell you, thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, and I feel the same way, honestly, just getting to know you through just through Facebook even. I'm just like, I need to know her more. And I didn't even know some of those things about your bio. I've like seriously just read that completely through for the first time right now and it choked me up, girl.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I'm like, okay, let's don't get all emotional here. No, but I mean, yeah. And I have people say all the time, "Oh my gosh, you've been through so much," but in the midst of it, it's so overwhelming and it feels so heavy. But without it, I just it's been such a learning process. And in fact, I was talking to somebody just today because I have a picture of my little girl in my office, and I can always tell people get a little uncomfortable if I mention her. But she's such a radiant little soul for me, and even though she isn't here, like I just I can't tell people enough to like understand that when you get to a spot where you're doing this type of work that this conference is teaching you how to do, you can get that connection back. Like I feel my daughter with me constantly. Like she is a big part of what I do. And it's just peaceful. Instead of looking at her and having the just sorrow and whatever. I look at her and she just radiates from her photo, like the energy that I feel with her every day. So that is why we do this stuff, is because you really don't have to go through things so that they can just, whittle you away into nothingness. Really, there is a purpose. There is a purpose through the pain that you've been through.
Absolutely. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hop off and give you a few minutes here. I'd love to have you tell us a little bit more about why someone would get value in learning about what human design is. Like, why would they want to go to that class? And
Okay.
how will that help them? And then whatever else you feel inspired to share. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So as Tammy mentioned, I teach this amazing course on human design. And I'll tell you that when I first started looking into human design, it was overwhelming, completely overwhelming. There is just so much to it. And so I want to start off by saying, if that is something that you've looked into before and you just got overwhelmed with it, I love teaching. And so I have basically taken human design and made it so that it's mentally digestible for you so that you can understand it. I do lots of different types of energy work. And something that I found in my own practice that I was missing was I was able to help people get through their past traumas, and I was able to help people release things. But the one thing that was always missing was, how do I help to keep people in that space, in that beautiful momentum where they're moving forward? Because, of course, unless we remove the human part from our life and we remove things, you're going to run into stuff. Things are going to happen. So doing energy work helps us to not be triggered. It helps us to deal with those types of things. But what if we truly had, and it sounds completely crazy, but what if we truly had an easy way to keep us in that balanced space? And so that's what human design is. And sometimes people get it confused. They're like, oh no, I know my personality type, or I know my zodiac sign, I know astrology. And that's amazing. And those things are helpful, but I want you to take it to this way higher level. Human design is like the creation of this beautiful, I like to think of it as a gourmet soup, because it literally builds layer by layer. When you like go to a restaurant and you eat something and it's just incredible. It's like touching your soul. The flavors are so amazing. And that's what human design is. It basically starts with the foundation. It starts with your type, and it builds from there. So in a soup, you might, have a base of a broth or a base of a cream base. And then you're adding like all the vegetables that you love and all of the proteins that you love. And then you're putting in herbs and spices, and you literally can just make this magnificent, beautiful creation. And that's what human design is like. It starts at the very high level with 5 different personality types. And even just knowing that gives you this beautiful advantage to living your life. But then it goes down into this beautiful, intricate detail about yourself. And you will realize that things that you do are actually either something you can change or something that is a consistent energy. And it basically gives you the blueprint of exactly how you should make decisions, of exactly how you should live your life. It allows you, like, let me give you this really cool example. So, like if you're familiar with chakras, the human design goes a step further in saying that just like human beings have physically evolved, we have also evolved spiritually. So we actually have some extra centers that we have kind of progressed into. And so understanding those centers, like we have a spleen center and an identity center, but we also have a throat center, which is just like the throat chakra. And something that's really cool is when you understand that those centers are either active or they're open. And if they're active, you have a really consistent energy. So if you have an active throat, you can speak. You speak your mind, speaking comes natural to you. But if you don't, then that means that it's open, but you actually speak through other people. So you'll find a person like me, and then you'll say something to them, and then I would voice it to a group. And the great thing about this is if you find yourself getting into a room with someone and you feel just really uncomfortable and it's really difficult for you to talk to them, that's okay, because you stop resisting that and you stop trying to force yourself into these situations that you feel really uncomfortable, because that's what we're taught. We're taught this conditioning that, no, you should just go, 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 do, get out of your comfort zone. That is not true, because for some of us, that is not aligned with who we are. And you're just going to fight that and you're just going to end up frustrated. There's nothing you can do about it except for figure out how to use it to actually your advantage. So if I know that I have a hard time speaking with someone in a room face to face, if I go to a public place and I sit at a table in the center of a room where there are other people around, I can actually use the energy of the people in the room to empower my throat chakra so that I can speak, and it becomes easier for me and things will start to flow simply because I'm tapping into that ability. Another really cool thing that I love to teach about human design is you have an internal system that tells you whether or not you should follow through with a decision or not. It's a what we call a or an if you have your sacral center, if that's your authority. So we have different types of authorities. Some of us have authorities where we receive intuition, and that is how we know the yes or the no. And with the sacral specifically, you actually have a vibrational energy that comes, you can think of sort of from deep inside your soul, and you actually hear it as a or an and if you're not sure, you'll get an So think about this. When we're kids, we say or and then what happens? An adult says, "Oh, Amy, I'm going to need you to use your words. Don't say or And so our parents teach us to use yes and no, and we stop that natural ability to listen to our inner truth. And so by the time we become adults, then we just it's not that it's not there anymore. We just have learned to not use it. And so it takes a little bit of practice. So I always tell my clients not everybody has their sacral as their authority. Some people have, they're more of an emotion. So if you have emotion as your authority, or you can think of it as your solar plexus center, you are meant to not make a decision until you have rode an emotional wave. Now, if you don't know that about yourself, guess what happens? You are like, man, I'm just so emotionally all over the place, like up and down. And I just feel so just discombobulated as far as I just feel like an emotional mess. Well, if you know that that is actually your authority, instead of resisting that and meeting with frustration and beating yourself up and getting into this cycle where, you know, you're negative talking about yourself and you are just getting into that space where you're having really low self-esteem, you realize that that is part of who you are. And so if I know that about myself and I'm aware of it, I immediately begin to release that resistance. And I realize that in order to make the decision that's right for me, I need to feel all the feels with it. And so I allow myself to feel the lowest of lows. I allow myself to feel in the middle. I allow myself to feel really high. And then I know, because it's a pattern, I can actually journal and watch it. I know it's a pattern. And every time I go to make a decision, I know I'm going to go through this emotional wave. And then I realize that after my emotional wave has come, I've taken all of the time that I need and I've felt through my decision up and down. And now I align and I know the right thing for myself to do. And so that's the beauty of it. Going back, if my sacral is my authority, I learn to listen. If someone asks me a question immediately, then I listen and I get an or an and I hear it just as a little tiny vibration or a little tiny voice. But I recognize that that immediate answer is my answer from my higher source, higher power, whatever that is for you. that is it. The problem is that we make decisions, all of us do, because that's how we're taught. We make decisions from our mind, and your mind is the last place that you should go when you need to make a decision. But that's what we're taught. And so, as Tammy mentioned in my description, that is what it's all about. It is removing the past conditioning that people have taught you, because we don't fit into boxes. And so people have taught you, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to make decisions based off of, cognitive processes. So we're basically just all running around doing it wrong. And then we don't understand, why is it so hard? And when you learn your human design and you understand who you are, maybe you struggle with sticking with things, and then you just get into this space where you're so hard on yourself, right? Raise your hand if you've gone through that before, where you're like, I've tried it all. I've been on hundreds of diets. I just can't stick with it. What if I told you that for some people, that's just part of your design? So what if, instead of fighting it, you realize that, wow, the center in my human design that is in charge of willpower is not a consistent energy. So I will actually never be able to consistently stay on something like a diet. But, and then, right, you say, well, Amy, that's not fair. So what am I supposed to do? You recognize that that energy for you is flexible. And so you need to align with someone else that has that type of willpower, and you basically can get the energy from them to help you to stay on task. So you don't dive into it like a person would on a traditional thing. You have to modify what you're doing, and that way you'll be successful. It's no different than when you come to an energy conference like we're having. A lot of speakers are naturally the type of people that are motivators. And so when you're sitting in a conference or you're watching a YouTube video and you're like, man, I just feel so on top of the world, right? All of us do that. We go to a conference and we're writing all these notes, and we're going to leave this conference and we're just going to take on the world. So you are engaging in absorbing the energy of the people that are talking. And so that energy is basically lighting you up like a little firecracker, and your inner energy sources are ready to go. Well, using human design and understanding where you have consistent energy and where you can absorb the energy of other people allows you to basically do that every day by understanding, like, what type of people should I be around? And I actually don't know how long I get to talk for, if Tammy's going to jump back on here. But another example that I love about this is diving into human design and understanding how this affects us in our relationships. So an example of that is perfect. Thank you. An example of that is your human design is just like the chakras, right? We have the crown or the head, and then we have the mind right below it. And so this is something that's just really, really cool. If you are a parent and you have just for simplistic purposes, we're just going to call it your thought centers, okay? Your cognitive thought centers. If you have your cognitive thought center active and your child and has their cognitive thought centers open, is what happens is when you are around your kids, your active thought centers actually put questions into your child's mind, because theirs is so open, so they're easily absorbing. And then your child asks questions all the time. And as a parent, what do? We get frustrated and we're like, oh my gosh, stop asking questions all the time. And so in the reality of it is, it's actually the parent's energy system that's depositing the questions into the kid's mind. And so if you don't understand that, think of the resistance that you're creating in your own home, right? Or if you have, if you're in a relationship with a significant other. So this is another one that's just like, boom. Human design is mind blowing, because as you you kind of reconcile with yourself of like, wait a minute, I've been fighting this for so long, when in reality, there's nothing to really get all upset about. So for some of our energy sources, some people basically every morning, they have this really consistent source of energy. So think of it as like you wake up and your cup is full and you need to use all of that fuel during the day. If you don't, when you go to sleep at night, if you do not hit your pillow completely in a state of exhaustion, you will not be able to sleep. On the other hand, if you have the opposite type of design where you do not have that full cup of energy in the morning, your center is open, which isn't a bad thing, because sometimes people get in that space where they're like, wait a minute, it sounds like if my centers are defined, then that's better because I have a consistent energy source. Not necessarily true. If you take the time to learn about your human design, the sources, the places in your human design that are open, you can actually manipulate. Because they're open, you can absorb. You have the flexibility to modify what energy you're taking in. Whereas a person that's consistent, they're consistent. That's it. They don't have the ability to get rid of that. So sometimes people will be like, why do you stay so busy? This is one for me, right? Why do you stay so busy? Amy, you must be hiding from something, because staying busy is a way for you to suppress your emotions. Actually, wrong. That is completely wrong. There are people that do that, but for myself, my human design is that I stay busy. That is part of what feeds my soul, is to be busy with purpose. So I stay very busy in my business because it gives me purpose and I'm helping other people. But if I don't know that about myself, when someone comes to me and is like, oh, Amy, you're emotionally hiding from something because you keep yourself so busy. You must be trying to stay numb and not deal with things. No, wrong. I stay busy because that is how my energy system works. And I have to burn that off, or at the end of the day, I can't sleep. So if I'm a person that is opposite and I can absorb the energy of another person who has a lot of energy, you actually want to find somebody like me, right? Because then you can basically use the energy that I'm giving off. So before I started in human design, I had a boss and she was super cool, but I used to get really frustrated because I felt like everybody based the morning meeting that we had. Everybody based the morning meeting off of how I was feeling. And there was a point where my boss said, if you don't come into the meeting and you're not like your sunshiny self, you ruin the meeting for the rest of us. And I was angry because I'm like, wait a minute, why is it my responsibility in this group of 7 people to set the tone for the meeting? But after I learned my human design, I was like, cha-ching, right? I'm setting the tone because it's my aura that's coming into play that the rest of my coworkers are able to grasp onto. And so now knowing that, I don't look at it as a burden of like, oh my gosh, I have to come to this meeting every day, super happy. I look at it as I have the opportunity to come to this meeting super happy every day because I'm setting the tone for the rest of my group and I'm giving them the ability to use my energy to make stuff happen for them. And so you use it as a way to better yourself. Now, when it comes to couples, if you happen to be someone like me who has that consistent energy and you are the opposite where you absorb the energy of other people, the person that absorbs the energy of other people they need to go to bed at 30 minutes before they even start to get tired because they need to unwind. So they need to do things like read before they go to sleep. They need to do some type of thing where they can start to unload because they've been absorbing energy of people all day long. And if they go try to lay down and fall asleep instantly, they will have severe insomnia. So this creates a problem when you're in a relationship if one of you needs to go to bed exhausted and the other person needs to unwind before they go to sleep. Now, I'm going to add something here even more that's going to blow your mind. Some people actually do better when they don't sleep in the same bed. And for a lot of people, that's like oh, no, 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 no. That's a good way to ruin your marriage. Actually, It's not. If you understand your human design, you can respect the fact that the person that is giving off the energy when you fall asleep, it doesn't stop. Your aura doesn't just quit doing that. And then you've got the person who's absorbing it. That's an overload for a person that's absorbing energy when you're sleeping in the same bed. It can be a really big overload. So some of you right now are having an aha epiphany because you're like, wow, I actually do better when I sleep alone, but I don't like to admit that because I feel like I'm crazy and, you know, something is wrong with me because I have a hard time sleeping in the same bed as my spouse. When you know, right? If you listen to yourself, you're like, no, that has nothing to do with me not loving them or not wanting to be with them or we're having an issue. You just feel more settled when you are sleeping alone because you're absorbing energy and you need to be able to kind of unload that. So those are the types of things that we learn in our human design, and it goes down into just amazing things where some of this stuff you do cognitively, some of this stuff you do and you're not even aware of it subconsciously. So it basically allows you, like literally someone hands you your design and then you can look at it and be like, wow, this is exactly how I should live my life. And you no longer are faced with the stress of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what decision to make. I don't know what people to be with. I don't know what kind of boundaries I should set. It gives you the keys to just be able to literally sit back and allow life to flow for you. It's absolutely super amazing. Bing, there you go.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I thought I would want to make just a couple of comments here because number one is I really have a hard time not saying exactly what I'm feeling. And when I had my human design done, it literally showed my heart is connected to my mouth. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm okay.
Right. I'm not weird.
I'm gonna be okay. But I thought how healing this would be to actually do this for a family and to be able to look at each other's and help understand each other even that much more. Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, we'll run a whole chart. Actually have a system that can overlap because our energies basically they lay on top of each other and that's how we affect, if you have an open channel, you'll magnetically attract a person that
Mm,
has the other half to complete your channel. So it's cool to see. Like it makes perfect sense, like why do I have siblings and one of them I feel so close with and the other one it's just like, ooh, it's like
yeah.
opposite type
Chinese.
of polarity there. It's completely explainable when you look at your human design. So yeah, running a family's charts is really cool.
Oh my gosh, and I think that that would be such a fun date night even.
Yeah,
Have you ever done that before with people where it's like a date night?
I haven't done it as a date night, but that sounds like a good marketing opportunity,
Oh my gosh, I'm like, I wanna grab Chinese and, like, I'll meet you over there or something.
right?
That'd be so fun. Well, this is so exciting. I'm always looking for ways to be able to kind of understand the people that I love the most and also understand myself, not just for the compassion component of it, but because it makes more sense to me and also gives me guidance in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, Leanna says I would totally do that. I think it's a great idea. Do you ever do in-person sessions with people, or do you always do them virtually?
I did in-person sessions for a while, and then I actually realized that so when I'm working with clients, I channel in a lot of what I get, and it disrupts my ability to channel when I do in-person sessions. So I don't do them anymore, which is really
Oh,
hard for some people, but they have to realize coming back to human design, that's my human design. Like I can't
yep,
have someone in my aura field. It messes my ability to see. But the people that need the in-person sessions, that's part of their human design. They need that
yeah,
physical connection. But so no, I don't do in-person sessions anymore just because I realized that regardless of how much my client wants to do that, it
yeah.
actually I can't provide them
I
with the
love
best with the best session if I'm actually with them in the room.
I love that. So, do you do it over Zoom, or how does it look if somebody were to book a session with you? Tell us.
Yeah, if I'm doing so I do multiple stuff, but if I'm doing a specifically a human design, then yeah, we do it over a Zoom call because I need to be able to share my screen. So the human design is complex so that I can show them exactly what we're looking at. And then I do this like really cool PDF book that tells them exactly, okay, you know, because you can see it, but it looks like it's hieroglyphic. And so I go into some really big details and then also tell you, okay, so that's what that means, but here's how you can actually use it to your advantage. So I do a full PDF little book, and then I do an hour Zoom call where I show them exactly what we're looking at so that they can have that to reference later.
Wow, that's awesome. A few questions that are coming in right now is how much is a session to do a session with you?
To do a full human design reading is 125, and that includes the PDF book that I send you, and then also the 60-minute phone call.
Very cool. Very cool. So if I have 8 kids and then there's my husband and myself, that would be 10 of us. And then I've got a couple of grandbabies. I think that'd be so cool to do it with my grandbabies and my
Yeah.
son-in-laws. I wonder if they'd be up for it. Leanna, wouldn't that be so cool? She says, what about for a date night session? So she doesn't do in person, Leanna, but if you did like a Zoom, it'd be 60 minutes, right? Times
Hmm.
two. So that would
Yeah.
be 250, right?
I would do, since this is kind of a new concept of a date night session. Yeah, we could work something out so we could do it as a
That's
date
awesome.
night special.
That's awesome. So Leanna and everyone else, I went ahead and put Amy's website and her Facebook page up on in the comments and up on the screen so that you can reach out to her as well if you're not able to come to the conference for the class. But for those of the people who are watching right now who are going to be at the conference, tell us what's going to be happening there. Are you going to be going through and explaining more about the systems and what's that like?
Yeah, so when I actually do the course, which mine is at 4 p.m., I'm going to go into human design, but I like to take it a little bit of a step further because you can go out and read a little bit about human design. I like to dive into the why, like why is it like this? So I'll be covering like exactly where did this methodology come from? How does it work?
Cool.
But I'll go through some of the overall basics, but then I'm going to talk about some of like the cool little things that you don't really get into until you start studying this on a really deep level. Because it can be very overwhelming. It's something you can literally dive into for years. And so I like to just kind of pull out the things that are like, ooh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is really neat. And actually, that is a very affordable price too. So I love that. So many fun things about you as well. I love how you're able to bring who you are and your own human design into it, and then share it with others in a way that like serves both of you. You know,
Yeah.
really cool. All right. Anything else that you'd like to add?
Nope. Just make sure if you come and say hi.
I'm so excited. I can hardly wait. All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time or Saturday, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. I'm a hugger. I hope she's all right if I give her a hug. I guess I do process in person, and that maybe that's why I do live events and just really gravitate towards that. Well, I'd love to thank Amy for her time today. Please join me in thanking her. She is phenomenal. I'm so excited. The more I've followed her on social media, the more I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this class. It's going to be so, so good. And for those of you who are at home and you're not able to come because of, proximity where you live or any other reason, she is on our virtual ticket pass. So if you are watching, she will be joining us live at 4 p.m. that day. If you would like a virtual pass, just go ahead and let me know down in the comments so that we can still get you in on that class. That's going to be really remarkable. And Leanna, if you end up doing a date night session with her, definitely let me know. That sounds so exciting. I'm totally down with that. That would be so fun to do that. And yeah, I've done my own human design with a mentor and was so impressed. It really was very validating for me. So All right, we have our next speaker that is going to be joining us today. This is Mike Simpson. I already read his bio, but I'm going to go ahead and share just a few more details before we bring him on again. He has over 25 years experience in this field. And his class that he will be spotlighting today is called Eliminate Suffering Through Hypnosis and NLP. And I'm excited to have him share more details about that, especially because admittedly, I was someone who was absolutely afraid of the word hypnosis. I thought that what that meant was that I was somehow giving over my mind to someone else. So this is going to be really good for him to be talking a little bit about what he's going to be covering in his class. Really, it's a class for someone who's just tired of suffering. There's a hopeless stigma attached to depression and anxiety. And I just shared a story just today. I was literally at the grocery store before I came on today at the Facebook Live, and I had to literally turn around and educate a few people. I tried to keep my mouth shut, but I couldn't. They were literally just going off, and I was like, they need to know this. But literally, although this stigma has been really prevalent, and I'm so thankful that there's people like Mike who have just really been there to help support people through this, because there is an emerging science that proves that unresolved trauma can be re-encoded in the subconscious mind. So that's really why the hypnosis and the NLP and the heart math that he's all certified in will really be able to help so many people. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on and turn the time over to him for just a minute. Let's see. There you are. How are you?
Nice. Doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm so good. I am so impressed after reading through this bio of yours again. I'm just like, oh my gosh, literally where this just happened today. I don't know if you heard my story earlier about the grocery store, but there was a couple of women that were talking. They were saying, one was saying, well, if people were depressed and stuck in their room, then they ought to just go do something nice for someone, and then they wouldn't be depressed anymore. And I was like, did I really just hear that? And it's 2022.
Yeah.
So I had to turn around and kindly, I mean, I was very, very kind, but I just let them know, that doesn't always work. It can work, but it doesn't always work. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with that. I think, as you had mentioned earlier, when you were talking about my bio, there really is a stigma attached with depression. There's a limiting perception, so if I feel like I have depression, then I may actually have that perception that there's nothing I can do to overcome those symptoms. And I have spent quite a while over the past 24 years or 25 years spending time delving into the subconscious mind to help people identify the root cause that was contributing to that emotional suffering. And I guess it's important to acknowledge the subconscious mind, it really has no concept of time, and it remembers everything. And so the subconscious mind doesn't just record the events of the past, but the subconscious mind also records the emotions associated with those memories. And when we turn about 7 years old, we have a change that happens in the brain where the critical factor is formed. And you could think of that wall as it's a wall that separates the left brain from the right brain, or it separates the conscious from the subconscious mind. And that wall wants to protect us, sometimes by actually hiding the very things that are causing us to suffer. So it can be very confusing. The wall is hiding something that it still remembers, but we don't have conscious access to what that is, but we still have access to the emotions that are encoded in those memories of the past. And so I've just found that these unresolved traumas really contribute to the emotional suffering that simply accrues over a lifetime. And that can shape our perception, that can distort our perception, and it contributes to how we see the world, how we see ourselves in the world, And so I've just found tremendous success helping people go back, dig through those unresolved issues from the past, and to actually go in and re-encode trauma. And when I say trauma, it could be neglect, it could be abuse. I mean, even if someone as a child went through a divorce with mom and dad and suffered that separation anxiety, just any dynamic that someone suffers through in their childhood can greatly contribute to the instability and the emotional suffering landscape as they get older, even though they don't consciously connect to that concept anymore.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that I wanted to add, well, what does that mean when you say re-encode? Tell me what that means first.
Yeah, that's a good question. When we go through something traumatic, our body will go through a chemical reaction. So if we go, for example, into fight or flight, the blood chemistry changes. We get a dump of cortisol and adrenaline pumping through our system, and our heart rate picks up, and we go through this chemical reaction inside of our body. And that chemical reaction gets associated with that experience that we just had. So the emotion gets recorded with the memory. And so many years later, we may encounter something in our physical world that triggers an association with that old memory. And we may not even consciously access that memory, but we also trigger the emotion that was connected to that memory.
I think that's so important to note that you don't even consciously have to recognize that the two had connected.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it can be very confusing, because that wall that separates the conscious from the subconscious, it actually does a good job of hiding some of that uncomfortable information from us. But although it can hide the details, it cannot hide the emotional reaction that's associated with what just got triggered. So if someone hits that trigger, say 20 times a day, but they're not consciously connected to what that is, they may be inadvertently triggering that negative emotion 20 times a day. And if that's changing their blood chemistry and it's affecting them, then there's a lasting effect that's lasting all day long. And, from an energy perspective, it's very expensive to create those negative emotions. It requires fuel. So your body will go through the process of spending the whole budget on creating those negative emotions. So a lot of times people will find themselves feeling drained, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, and because their body is actually spending their fuel on the wrong things.
Dang.
So some of the techniques that I use, I'm also a heart math coach.
So cool.
And heart math is really fascinating because it brings science into the conversation, and even there's a bunch of medical doctors that come into this consortium. And the science is exciting because it's teaching people that they can actually control those negative emotional reactions that are taking place, often outside of their conscious awareness. So there's some really simple steps that you can learn and take. They're easy to learn. They're so easy you can teach them to children. And when you apply these steps, you can actually start training your body to respond differently to those old triggers. So when it's back to your other question, when we were talking about re-encoding trauma, it's possible through NLP, through hypnosis. There's also some other modalities out there. Havening is one of those modalities, where the science is proving now that you can associate a different emotion to an old trauma, and you can short circuit that old negative emotional reaction. And so you can use these other modalities to go in and actually insert a different emotion connected to that old memory, so that when the trigger fires the next time, it can either short circuit and create no emotional reaction, Or it could actually, you could change it so you could create a positive emotional reaction connected to that old memory.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. If somebody wanted to work with you, what does that look like?
That's a good question. I have many clients across the country, actually, and right now I exclusively work over Zoom. And so it's possible to reach out to my wife. If you go out to mikesimpson.live, you can get our contact information to set up appointments. But what I'm really going to introduce with this speech that I give is a new protocol that I've incorporated, where I'm doing some group workshops. And the group workshops are really effective in getting started with what I do. So ultimately what I want to do is work people through all of the prep work so that we can move into hypnosis and we can actually go in and re-encode that trauma. But before we do that, we need to do what I call the rototilling process. And if you think about that analogy of planting a garden, you don't just throw a handful of seeds out, in the spring and just hope that it turns into a garden. There's some work that needs to be done to really get that right. And so the rototilling process is about digging up the rocks and the sticks, and the debris, digging the furrows, and then designing what we want to plant there. And I have found that if we do that preparation work correctly, and for me that preparation work revolves around heart math protocol, and also around NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And it's difficult for me to give you the whole depth of what that means here in this quick conversation. But essentially, if you do the prep work correctly, then hypnosis brings powerful and permanent change. And if you don't get that prep work correctly, then your results may not be, as positive. And so with these group workshops that I'm talking about, and I'll put more information out on mikesimpson.live, and I'll talk about it also in my presentation. These group workshops are designed to go through the rototilling phase with a group of people to help each person identify their own internal narrative that's sabotaging their life, to work them through the process to help them identify what they actually want to change. And I guess I'd like to acknowledge here that NLP has some really powerful linguistic patterns that you can follow to really dig to the root of an issue just through regular conversation. But what I have found through the course of my career is we typically have benefits that come with the problems that we have. And sometimes by trying to remove a problem, it can introduce other problems that we hadn't anticipated. And so with the prep work that I do, we really work through that whole concept. And I help people identify some of the subconscious benefits that come from their problems. And, an example of problems that someone might have, if we want to use the analogy of if someone's having panic attacks, they may be so frustrated by that dynamic that they can't leave their home, they can't function in the real world. But there's also benefits to having that issue, right? And the benefit might mean I don't have to interact with a scary boss. I don't have to interact with people where maybe in my lifetime I haven't been treated very well, and those panic attacks can become a subconscious strategy to protect me from rejection from other people. So it wouldn't exactly be prudent to try to go in and alter those panic attacks without understanding why they are there in the first place. And so in these group workshops that I do, it's to address the real problems. It's to identify what benefits are coming from that problem. And it's also to dig up some of the hidden narrative that we carry. And hidden narrative can also include limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs, that's a whole different topic, but it's something that has to be explored at length when we're helping someone create a life change. So I know that's a lot of information, but
no, it's really good. I mean, and it's actually very pertinent, I think, for a lot of people. I just have all these other questions I keep thinking of. I know your time is limited. Can I narrow it down to 2 last questions?
sure, yeah, you bet.
Okay, so are there any types of people that you wouldn't recommend coming to your class? Like, do you work with kids or teens? Is this strictly just for adults, or
The
strictly
only
for
person
certain types of trauma?
the only person I would recommend not coming to my class is someone who doesn't want to change.
Mm.
And you might be surprised sometimes that someone may not want to change. On one level, they may want to, and then on some level they may not. And it's possible for someone to become double-minded.
Mhm.
And being double-minded means, part of me wants to get better, but another part of me doesn't. Another part of me is sick and tired of trying, because you know what people will always do? They always hurt you. And if someone falls into that narrative where they just feel ambivalent and they've quit trying, um, I typically won't take a client if they're not really ready to tackle this and take it on. But I have found tremendous success helping people who really want to change, where we roll our sleeves up and we go to work and we dig into the core of the issue. We get past the conscious narrative. We dig into the subconscious narrative, which often contains irrational perspective and hidden perspective. And if you can't find those hidden clues in the subconscious mind, it's extremely difficult to change.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I remember one of the very first times I ever did any sort of um, hypnosis for helping myself. We went through a series of me being in the kitchen. There was cookie dough. My mom gave some cookie dough to my brother, but wouldn't let me have any. And from that point forward, I believed that my mother didn't love me. It was like the
Yeah,
weirdest thing. I'm like, what?
yeah,
That's completely irrational. And I
yes,
recognize that as an adult, but like all through like this time that had gone on, no, I like legit believe that. But
yeah. Um,
subconsciously, you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly right, subconsciously. And so the pain of dejection that you felt when your mom denied you but gave that benefit to your brother, it created some type of a perception that caused you to feel like you weren't as good as him. And that infused into a disposition or an attitude that just got buried, behind that wall, but actually affected the way you felt about your mother on some level, the way you felt about your brother, the way you felt about yourself. And that's exactly what I help people dig up so that they can go back and find that. And I've just seen the most amazing, I mean, people would call them miracles, but the solutions are often very simple, like what you talked about. So yeah,
Yeah,
very
please
fascinating.
go help me with that one. I'm telling you what, we really try to vet our speakers quite a bit, and we have had you recommended by so many people for so long now. I feel so grateful that we were able to get both of us available to do this conference on the same day so that you could come and speak. I'm so excited because I know what simple little things like that have done for me personally. Like I would have never even believed that something like that would actually have mattered to me. Like, why wouldn't I have been able to just go, huh, who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't. The truth is, it really did affect me. So
Wow.
this
Well,
is cool.
profound changes can happen simply, and
So,
simple changes can happen profoundly.
yeah.
And so, that experience you had with Shelley Joe, that's amazing. And that is the power of hypnosis. And when you can just get into the subconscious mind, you can find information very easily that can be life changing. And so I'm excited to be able to share some of the tips and tricks that I've learned through the years that have really accelerated the progress that I've been able to help people create in their
That's
lives.
awesome. I love it. And again, you're speaking right at 11 o'clock this
Yeah.
Saturday. Looking forward to it so much. And thank you again for squeezing us in here into your busy schedule as well. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me and looking forward to seeing you in person.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Oh, wasn't that so great, you guys? And I have to tell you something. I didn't even know that chocolate chip cookie experience was affecting me. I moved to 19 different schools before I graduated. And the funny thing is, I, in hypnosis, could tell you exactly the color of the counter, where that kitchen looked. We only lived there for like maybe half a year. So crazy, but it works. And there's a lot of science behind it too. I'm sure Mike will share that especially since he's certified with the Heart Math Institute. That is so impressive. I've been totally like drooling on their website for years. I'm so excited to finally know someone who's certified with them, that's just right here local in Utah. That's so exciting. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tune off for tonight, but I wanted to let you know I will be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for a few more spotlights for speakers that are coming up. Now, if you haven't yet marked your schedule, please stay tuned. April 2nd is this Saturday. We'll be in Logan, Utah. But the following Saturday, April 9th, we will be up in Idaho Falls, Idaho, where, yes, I have hundreds of cousins. Probably at least a dozen uncles and aunts. My dad lives there. All my tons of family, tons and tons of family, on both my mom and my dad's side. And you know, my grandfather, it will be his birthday, and he's buried right in Idaho Falls, so I plan on visiting him as well. And let's see what else. April 30th will be St. George, Utah. And so excited to be there. And I hope that the sun comes out. I was just there and it was not sunny. It actually rained on us. It was kind of crazy. Oh, one more thing. The big conference, everybody keeps asking me, put this on your calendar ASAP. It is going to be June 23rd, 24th, and 25th in Ogden, Utah. And if you are a speaker, we also have an amazing night planned for you on the 22nd as well. It's going to be a fantastic conference. I look forward to having people come in from literally all over the world. I've already got lots and lots of guarantees of scientists and researchers that are coming in, people who own their own labs who are going to be showing people the different equipment that you can measure your energy with. I don't care who you are or what kind of type of energy work you are doing. I hope that you will be there for the world's largest live energy healing conference held right here in Ogden, Utah. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning and hopefully at one of the upcoming conferences. See you then, guys. Bye-bye.